Hey guys, welcome to another Your Tech Report video. Today, we're finally doing it. We're going hands-on with the Galaxy Note 9. Before we dive into this Samsung flagship device, let's remind you to subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Subscribing gets you access to all these videos as they happen. If you hit that notification bell, you'll be notified instantaneously. And of course, at the end of this video, if you like it, give us a thumbs up. We really do appreciate that. It helps us bring more of this content to you guys. The Galaxy Note 9. This is obviously the follow-up to the Galaxy Note 8, which of course was the follow-up to the battery-riddled Galaxy Note 7. Lots of great improvements across the board on the Galaxy Note 9. The most important of which, in our opinion, the 4,000 milliamp hour battery. This means that this device finally gives you a day, maybe a little bit more than a day, depending on what you're doing. We've got about 5 to 6 hours of playtime going heavily hands-on with the Galaxy Note 9. So that's the biggest change you'll notice in the Galaxy Note series is definitely that 4,000 milliamp battery, as well as an updated S Pen. This S Pen is now Bluetooth LE connected to the device, which means you can use it as a remote for various things, such as taking a selfie, for example, or controlling a PowerPoint presentation or any kind of presentation. Very, very cool addition. Of course, a lot of the same software features are still there, including being able to take notes on the screen when you just pull the S Pen out. Very, very cool stuff from Samsung. So let's talk about this phone in great detail, because there's a lot of things to talk about. Incredible color gamut, incredible contrast ratio. There was no issues using this phone outside or using this phone inside, and that says a lot about a phone. The display is especially noticeable when you're doing things like gaming or browsing things like photos and pictures that you might be looking at online, or photos you might have taken with the device itself. You definitely notice how rich the colors are, and you definitely notice that HDR, and you definitely notice the contrast ratio, especially when you're doing things both indoor and outdoor. You definitely get a nice contrast between the colors. The one thing about this Super AMOLED display is that it makes the phone feel big in your hands. When you're used to walking around with, for example, the iPhone X, this phone really does feel big in your hands, and I don't have that big of a hands. I've probably got average size hands. Leave the jokes for later. It's comfortable in the hands, but you definitely find yourself using two hands to navigate this device. Your thumb just doesn't quite reach where you're trying to get to, which is an interesting challenge, and it's something that we haven't experienced in a while because of the iPhone X having that smaller form factor. Let's talk about performance, and let's talk about price, because they go hand in hand. The entry-level model comes with 128 gigs of storage and 6 gigs of RAM. That retails for $1,000 US or $12.99 Canadian. Lots of subsidies available right now if you want to get your hands on the device, but that's a pretty expensive entry point in any kind of device. But for a flagship device, the bar has been set for a couple years, $1,000 plus. Now, there's an additional option if you want 512 gigs of storage. That's 512 gigabytes of storage. Let's not forget that you can expand that storage to 1 terabyte with the micro SD slot. So why get the 512 when you can get 128 and add as much storage as you want? We leave it up to you. $250 premium gets you that 512 gigabyte storage device. That also boosts the RAM to 8 gigabytes overall. Along with memory boost comes a processor boost. You got the latest Snapdragon processor and an enhanced cooling system. There's actually a water cooling system on this device. The phone does get a little bit hot when you're doing things like intense graphic usage, so that's when the cooling system really comes into play to make sure that your phone is at the proper temperature. Water cooling is something we haven't seen in a phone. Have we? I think we have seen that before in a phone. But water cooling is something that's on board this device as well. In terms of design, of course, you've got that glass front with that infinity edge display. You've got a metal back, but my God, does this thing attract fingerprints. I mean, look at that. You try to keep it clean. You try to do things for B-roll, and you see every speck of dust. You see all the fingerprints on both sides. Thankfully, when the screen's on, it's so bright that you don't even notice the fingerprints. But on the back of this device, I suggest getting a case or some kind of skin to protect it, at least from the fingerprints, so that it doesn't look as sloppy as it actually seems. IP68 water resistance, so you can drop this in a pool no problem. And that upgraded S Pen. So the S Pen looks the same, functions the same. Bluetooth LE keeps it connected to the device so you can do things like the selfies we talked about up the top. And it charges while it's actually inside the phone. So the camera system on this phone is the same camera system we saw released earlier this year in the Galaxy S9. So they've brought that over to the Note 9 with some interesting improvements on the software side. The software side has some AI elements that are actually kind of interesting. One of which, and that's our favorite, is flaw detection. This actually will notice on its own whether someone blinked in a photo, whether there's some red eye, whether there's a reflection, or something that just doesn't quite fit, and it'll notify you immediately and say, okay, maybe you should take that picture again. That was really cool. The other one is called Scene Optimized, where it tries to detect what you're actually photographing. Interesting with video, interesting with photos. We tried it with food and flowers and scenery, and it got it maybe 50% of the time. I guess that's something that will improve over time, but it is interesting because it does adjust the color and different settings to make sure you're getting the great picture of whatever it is you're trying to take, assuming it actually detected what you're trying to take properly. So we wanted to take you out a bit and show you some photos and some video while we're actually using this camera, because the camera system is quite good. The sharpness is immediately noticeable, and the pictures and video are quite impressive, especially when you hold it up to the iPhone X, which is the nearest comparable device right now, because the Pixel 3 really isn't on the market yet. So we've put together this interesting contraption here. Thank you to Casey Neistat for the idea. We refined it a little bit. We're going to pop the Galaxy Note 9 into one side of this device over here. We're going to tighten that. Okay. And we're going to put it up against the iPhone X. So we'll pop the iPhone X into the other phone holder over here. And this will allow us to take video and photos of pretty much the identical image, because the camera's over here, we got them nice and close together. We can walk around and show you exactly what things look like when we put these side by side. So let's head outside the studio and take a look at some of these things in action, shall we? Come with us, will you? So let's venture outdoors. Let's head out to the office now and take some images of what's going on in the office place here. It's lunchtime, so not many people working around here. Let's head outside and see what we can do with some of the cars that are in the parking lot. We're going to walk through here, and you could take a look at some of the cars that are out here. Notice the sharpness. It's almost barely noticeable sometimes, but the Galaxy Note 9 is definitely a sharper image. When you look at details in the distance, look at the lines. You can see the lines very clearly on the Galaxy Note 9, whereas on the iPhone X, they seem a little bit fuzzy. I guess that's a perfect explanation to what I'm seeing there. Let's look at some still photos here side by side as well. You've got the Galaxy Note 9 on the left of your screen. You've got the iPhone X on the right of your screen. A couple different photos to show you an example of the differences between these two devices. So hey guys. So that is the Galaxy Note 9 versus the iPhone X. Clearly you can see the Note 9 has some pretty distinct improvements over its previous camera and pretty distinct advantages over the iPhone X camera. So if that's one of the deciding factors that you use when you're shopping for a device, then we're going to have to go with the recommendation on the Galaxy Note 9 over there. Of course, we're probably a couple weeks away from a new iPhone, probably a couple weeks away from the Pixel 3, which we've seen nothing but rumors around all over the place. So you might want to wait a couple weeks before you pull the trigger on this $1,000 phone. It is the Galaxy Note 9 from Samsung. Check it out in the description below. And of course, thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to get more videos like this in the future. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.